2003's Timeline follows a group of two good-looking archaeologists who get thrown into a hall of mirrors and sent back to the 14th century to save the guy from Fast and Furious's dad from being stuck in a century where nobody bathed. Pop Tot, Timeline was your choice. What did you think of Richard Donner's Timeline?
This is one of my guilty pleasures. I know this was seriously bombed. It didn't do well in the box office. I think it only made half of its pull.
Yeah, you're right.
But I actually enjoy this movie. It's a Richard Donner film. It's a young Gerard Butler, I think pre-300.
Oh, yeah.
Paul Walker. Even what's-her-face, the actress from Bedazzled is in it. You know, just I like time travel movies. It's just kind of like treasure movies. But it's not without its flaws. But at the same time, I think it's a good time. I think it's a good watch. I can't really be mad at it.
Yeah, because you buried the egg.
Biggest note of this movie is the amount of talent. There is so many either really good character actors or, I mean, you obviously got Paul Walker, you have Gerard Butler right before he got big, you have Neil McDonough, who's one of the best character actors in the business, you have Michael Sheen is one of the villains, the main bad guy, he's always the bad guy, and there's a few other character actors I'm missing.
Even the French guy, Francois, that's Kiefer Sutherland's half-brother.
The Frenchman from The Matrix?
Well, I'm an idiot.
No, the French guy that played Francois.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
The sword ran through him, the big tall guy.
Yeah, because you buried the egg.
Yeah.
So Richard Donner directed this film. It's based on a Michael Crichton novel that came out a few years prior.
And it's a good novel.
And Michael Crichton basically sold off the rights for free, but he also hated the movie and turned on it and wanted nothing to do with it. As you mentioned, it has a 13% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was a massive box office bomb. And I think some of the problems are quite evident. It's trying to be like a cool tech futuristic movie with this time travel property thing into it while also being this medieval age movie, and both don't really work well.
Do you understand what this machine does? It takes you and strips you down to a molecular level.
The time travel thing is just really underbaked. I really wish we got more of that.
I think it's a unique idea, but yeah, the thing I think the movie kind of does well is, like, right away, the two Marine guys that are escorting them get killed.
Oh,
It's like, you know, and it's a dangerous world. And I think a lot of time travel movies tend to, like, the time travelers have one up because, you know, they're from the future and they know everything's going to happen.
They know how everything works.
These guys, like, immediately are just on the run because they're in the middle of the 100-Year War between Britain and France. If I was going to make fun of something right away in the movie, it's the O faces that they're making while they're transporting through time. Yeah, because nobody wants to see Paul Walker's O face.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of that scene from the new Power Rangers movie when they're all like morphing and stuff. Yeah. But it's not. It's almost like you thought they were gonna like dematerialize better or something, but instead you just got these like flashes of like kind of pornographic O's. It just doesn't really work. And the other thing, I hate to say it, and I actually mentioned this to you, is Paul Walker's terrible in this movie. He's very flat.
So who do you think they were anyways? Thank you.
Paul Walker. I mean, rest in peace.
Right.
God love you. But I mean, he always was to me was like,
How did my father get stuck back there anyway?
Yeah, he's a less charming version of Hayden Christensen, unfortunately. He is the star, but he's surprisingly not in the movie a whole lot. And the whole plot is driven around finding his dad, which is this famous professor that gets trapped in the past. And
played by the wonderfully talented Billy Connolly, who is the stand-up comedian, Scottish guy.
Terrible thing happens to men after 50. Your doctor loses all interest in your testicles.
And when I was a kid growing up, he was always on Leno and Letterman. He's just a funny guy.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Gerard Butler, I think you can see why Gerard Butler becomes who he is. Gerard Butler might be one of the best parts of the movie.
Take me home.
And his arc is the most interesting, the most fascinating. In fact, he actually stays back in time and falls in love with this French woman, and his inscription is actually really cool.
Which is issue number 2 for me. All of this takes place in 6 hours.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You forget because they have 6-hour little tag things that they have to click
yeah,
on
like
to
they're
get
like
back.
they're like Inception totems almost.
Yeah, they're little things they have to use within 6 hours or they die or they're stuck.
These are your personal markers. You wear them around your neck. You can use any one of them to call for your return at any time. Frank will explain the intricacies of how they work once you arrive.
This whole battle, burning down town, getting captured, escaping, recapturing, them meeting the French lady, him falling in love, her falling in love with him, the storm on the castle, going up the tunnel. All of this takes place in 6 hours.
Yeah, it's insane.
Don't squeeze it.
They almost forgot how slow horseback was. Even in modern day traveling around Europe, yeah, it's not as big as the United States. Fun fact. But it's like, it still takes time. And all this, you're like, oh, wait a minute. This all happened literally in 6 hours.
Well, then I suggest you stop with the history lessons and start looking for the professor.
Why not make it 24 hours? That's the thing. It's just writing. It's like, oh, you know what? This doesn't make any sense pacing wise. We'll just go back and change the time.
I think
to 24 hours.
They needed, because it's almost like they thought 6 hours was more intense or more life threatening than 24. I'm not really sure.
I yell at one of them, they all go in the corners and cry.
I will say one of my favorite parts of this movie is Richard Donner, who's really well known for this, went out of his way to make sure there was very little CG used. And the last battle sequence is all practical effects. It looks very good. A lot of the stuff in camera looks incredible. It holds up today. The movie's 21 years old, and I still think it looks pretty good from that aspect.
He actually used or hired medieval reenactors for this.
Yeah, which is
so
really,
those are like
really
real
cool.
trebuchets and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, it looks really cool. The castle looks cool. A lot of the stuff is really cool how they do it.
At the beginning of the movie, did you catch the Richard Donner connection?
Yeah, Richard Donner finds one of the guys, and basically what happens if you...
No, it's not Richard Donner. That was Steve Kahn.
God, I suck without a scope.
Who plays the police captain?
You're right. I thought it was Richard Donner. You're right.
When I first saw the movie years ago, that's what I thought. Yeah. But they do look a lot alike.
It's the
behind camera.
It's the captain from Lethal Weapon.
It's the captain from Lethal Weapon. His hair is just longer.
Yeah, and basically when they loot too many times and all that, it basically destroys their like demolecularized
like
them or whatever.
Fax,
yeah, like a fact.
Apart from his obvious external wounds, everything is out of alignment. Even his veins are out of alignment.
So he ends up finding one of these people on the road or whatever, which is kind of cool. And then one of the cool parts that's very underbaked is one of the lead bad guys. He's part of the research team. He's part of
the care.
Yeah, he was one of Neil McDonough's buddies, Billy, that was trapped.
Oh my God. I thought you were dead.
He kind of saw it as an opportunity to become a huge asshole, and
I used to be William Decker, ITC employee number 273.
Just kind of neat.
I've gone in too many times. I'll never survive another trip.
My least favorite part of that is his reveal is on a horseback around all of his men, and he's just shouting all this. And I'm like,
And not in this time. You'd have to go back. Why don't you press the marker? We can all go home, Decker, huh?
I noticed I'm like, as he's talking to what's his name, and the three people that that are tied behind the back of the whatchamacallit, he's explaining his whole thing, and there's two guards
they're just right there
behind him.
And it's like, well, I guess maybe like their helmet shielded it. I don't know, because he's like saying everything in like graphic detail, and I'm like, be quiet about that.
I know all of your names. I'll never survive another trip.
You've been my family. You've been to my house.
Some people are really fucking stupid.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of surprises. It's pretty, standard time affair.
The romance between Paul Walker, or his character, and the Kate character, played by Frances O'Connor, was kind of weird.
So there's nothing there.
Chris, you're the boss's son.
Like at the beginning, she just showed no interest. Well, and everybody kept saying, "Dude, don't try. She's not going to do it."
And again, it just
they fell in love in 6 hours.
It's something like that where the writing doesn't support it. You really hope that the chemistry and acting there. And Paul Walker, again, I don't mean to be mean. It's just not working. It really isn't.
Maybe we made a wrong turn. We could.
It's too late. It's just too late.
He almost feels like a Disney movie performance compared to everybody else.
Well,
you know what the past is to me?
What? What's the past to you?
The past is why my parents split up. The past is basically what I've been force-fed ever since I was a little kid.
The only movie I've ever seen Paul Walker in that matches is She's All That, because he's playing Paul Walker, really.
It's close to closing the deal. She's eating up every word I say.
I don't know, Dean. I feel a bet coming on, but I'm gonna have to resist.
Music's pretty good. Jerry Goldsmith did it, which Jerry Goldsmith, one of the greatest composers of all time. I love him because of his work on Star Trek.
This was actually one of his last movies, and they did a weird thing where they actually replaced his music when it was released by Brian Tyler, but when they released the soundtrack, both soundtracks was on it, and I never could understand, because Goldsmith, I mean, he's the standard.
All right, here we go. That's right. Everybody be careful.
Don't worry about it. Chris, you're gonna find him. You guys will be home for lunch.
All right, here we go.
Watch your step, sir. That's right.
Everybody be careful.
This is a fantastic take for an archaeologist.
Yeah, to me, it's Williams, and then
you're right. It's Williams, Goldsmith, and Zimmer.
It's definitely one of those weird movies. There's not a lot in terms of like if there anything like production wise. You spent a lot on it, and I guess they really wanted to try to make it something. It just didn't really work. And Richard Donner, he's definitely earned his stripes. He only did one more movie after this, which I really liked, and that was 13 Blocks with Bruce Willis, which I really like.
This guy is fucking stupid.
As usual on Lost and Found, we rate things by Lost. You leave it to the streaming black hole, you forget it, and you go watch whatever reality TV show or an actually good movie. Found, you seek it out on a weekend watch like we did, and you enjoy. Pop Top, where are we putting 2003's timeline?
I would actually watch it. And that's just a personal thing. I actually enjoy it. I do love time movies. Paul Walker aside, I think it was kind of neat to put these characters in this dire strait. It's kind of sucked because there's all this stuff going on, and I think it does pretty good with the practical effects, and I think that was a brazen move. But overall I do enjoy it. It's entertaining.
Yeah, because you buried the egg.
Probably going to override my thought because I was a little bit more about it. I think Paul Walker's performance doesn't help.
We don't know. We were going to ask for your help.
I think the time element they use is really underbaked, even down to the effects and what they use. And it almost feels like everything was like, well, we already spent $70 million on this castle. I guess we can just do a bunch of Hall of Mirrors. But Gerard Butler's really good. I love his character arc. I do think the movie's probably like 15 minutes too long.
Yes.
But Richard Donner is a really good director. I really enjoy what he does. And I think it's very noble, maybe perhaps misplaced to do so much stuff in camera, but the castle stuff looks really cool, and there is a ton of talented people in this movie. So it's a bit of a shame that it bombed so bad. But as usual, thank you guys so much for watching. August, we're going to do something a little different, and we're going to do a month devoted to one human being, which is going to be hilarious. It's going to be wonderful. So make sure you guys tune in. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave your comments, because we're definitely going to take recommendations here soon. And thank you guys so much for supporting. It means the world to us, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, because you buried the eggs.